And on a promise of cheaper groceries. Now he's cutting SNAP benefits. I know that in doing so, I open myself up to the kind of personal attacks that we've seen over the last month. It's no surprise to hear the president threaten to denaturalize me, to deport me, to arrest me. It meant that when I was coming back to my home of New York City in the United States of America, I had to have a meeting with legal counsel of the steps I may need to take if I was to be detained. That is a sad reflection of what politics looks like today. But those kinds of realities cannot dissuade us from standing up for our constituents. We are not blind to them, we are not naive to them, but we also know that
yeah.
Yeah, we waiting on Trump remarks on the crime in D.C. and also the homelessness in D.C. Hold on a second. Let me make some move over here. Trying to get everything ready to rock and roll. I should have changed that. Golly, I made a mistake. That's not supposed to be on, but maybe I could change it right now. Let's see. I guess I'll just leave it like that for right now. Appreciate y'all for joining me. Well, there's a lot of crime in D.C. and homelessness, and Trump is planning to take action against that. They say it's people near the White House or on White House lawn, on the White House lawn, just sleeping on the concrete. Yeah, they say homelessness is bad out there. So that's, man, come on. I'm trying to get everything set up as we get ready for the president to come out. Bro. Come on. Trying to get everything set up on my end, guys. Let's see. Let me go over here until he come on. Try something else. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go there for that. Then trying to switch something up real quick. Appreciate y'all for joining me. Y'all hit the like button as y'all come in, please, so we can get this to rocking and rolling. No, not that one. Trying to get this to rocking and rolling.
We'll take one more question, Henry.
On pushing back, happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
On pushing back against President Trump, following up on Emma's question, can you get into a little
Get it on here first, guys.
Here to New York City mayoral candidate Zoran Mamdani. After this press conference that he gave, he is answering some questions from the press. We do have to step away for a brief commercial break, but I do want to
The Dominican Day Parade, worth incurring if it means we can protect the city that we love.
Yeah. Go ahead, Emily.
Councilmember, could you please describe how big or small threat you feel Andrew Cuomo is to your election prospects? Additionally,
This man Donnie speaking right now. I wonder why it won't.
I am not threatened by a former governor who cannot distinguish between rent control and rent stabilization. I am threatened by what Donald Trump's agenda will mean for this city and for this state. And the connection between the two comes from the fact that the president has three candidates in this race. He has one who is the member of the same party as him. He has another who he has functionally bailed out of legal trouble. And a third who he is coordinating with. And what New Yorkers want is a mayor who is accountable to them, not to the president, not to the same billionaires that put that president back in the White House, but to the people of this city. And people who we are seeing in this moment are struggling to afford the city that they call home. You know, yesterday, as I marched alongside 1199 in the Dominican Day Parade, with so many of these incredible leaders here, I heard far too many stories of Dominican New Yorkers who had to leave our city and now live in Pennsylvania because of how expensive this city has become. And we know that the reason Donald Trump is so threatened by our movement, by our ever-expanding coalition, is because of the fact that we mean what we say. We will represent those same New Yorkers who voted for Donald Trump in the hopes of a cheaper cost of living. And it is that stark contrast that threatens him, because it brings to bear the lack of sincerity in so much of what he has promised Americans.
Yeah, Liz.
I wanted to talk about the issue of rent-stabilized apartments. I see you're skeptical of means testing, but you are, in fact, your income isn't. There is means testing in the beginning to get into the program. Why does it bother you to have more regular means testing?
There's no means testing.
But you have to have a certain income in order to qualify for the lottery.
No, not true.
But isn't the lottery like only for people?
This is not through the lottery. I found this apartment on Street Easy.
Oh, I understand.
I think there is a lottery, but this apartment, like many New Yorkers find, was separate from.
What about those apartments that are received through the lottery? What about in those cases? I mean, those are means tested, but then the means testing only happens in the beginning, but never through the duration of the time you have the apartment, which can be forever.
I think it is critically important that we build far more affordable housing across New York City. And I think it's important that we deepen the level of the affordability that you're also referring to through these lotteries. What we're finding is that the demand that New Yorkers have for affordable housing, we saw a glimpse of the scale of it when we opened up the wait list for Section 8. In just 7 days, hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers applied. And success was the admission of some of them to a waiting list. And that is part of the story of the exodus of working and middle-class New Yorkers from this place that they call home. What Andrew Cuomo is proposing, be it the rent control he cited, the rent stabilization he intends to speak about, is in many ways reflective of the fact that I live rent-free in his head. That's what so much of this works backwards.
Everybody's starting to say that
Very
now.
important conversations to be had about housing. But this is not what he's seeking to lead. He's not looking to reflect on the fact that he eliminated more affordable housing than he created. He's not looking to reckon with his cutting of a voucher program that was then followed by a significant increase in homelessness in New York City. He's not looking to reckon with any of that. He's just looking to answer the question of how he lost in June. And the answer is not actually about him. It's not about me. It's not about any of us. It's about New Yorkers and about the fact that New Yorkers are tired of a politics of the past. They are tired of a politics that looks to collaborate with Republicans at the expense of serving New Yorkers. We saw that whether it be with the IDC or now with a phone call to the president. That's the politics that they are tired of. And the sad truth for him is he is a politician who embodies that politics.
We'll take one more question, Henry.
On pushing back, happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
On pushing back against President Trump, following up on Emma's question, can you get into a little bit?
We're continuing to listen in here to New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani. After this press conference that he gave, he is answering some questions from the press. We do have to step away for a brief commercial break, but I do want to remind everyone, if you are just tuning in, that we are monitoring this.
And they know what their rent will be next year, what their rent will be 2 years from now, and that they need not live with the anxiety that their landlord could put forth a rent increases, the likes of which is functionally an eviction from that apartment.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, I'll leave it there. Keep it there.
New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani there.
Well, what's up, everybody? I appreciate y'all for joining me this morning. We're waiting on Trump remarks about the homelessness and the crime in D.C. And of course, he's going to talk about other things too. But I appreciate y'all for joining me. We're getting ready for Trump to come up. Y'all please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for the algorithms as we see what this president is going to say about the homelessness and the crime in D.C. The word is that there are homeless people sleeping outside on the sidewalks of the White House. I know where I'm at, we see that all the time. Well, somebody homeless, they can just, have their tent anywhere, all out in the open. I seen a guy yesterday, he had a mattress on the sidewalk, covered up. So evidently, those same things that we are seeing, that I know that I'm seeing, is happening outside of that White House. So they're probably going to be talking about that a little bit. That's bad. You go visit the White House and you got homeless people sleeping on the sidewalk. Yeah, they got to do something about homelessness in America. Some people, they want to be homeless, but a lot of people could, a lot of people don't want to be homeless. So I appreciate y'all for joining me. And we're getting ready to rock and roll. We're just waiting on Trump to come out. Let's see what they're talking about now.
So this project's going to restore the flow of water in this area to the way that God originally intended it. You know, what happened 100 years ago when they started digging these canals is water and nutrients started pouring into the IRL, and we see the result of that, right? Well, that changes now. Those nutrients no longer will go there, and they're now going to be cleaned. The water's going to be cleaned and put into the St. Johns River where God intended that water to go. And that's a double whammy of goodness right there, all right? You got the St. Johns River getting the water it needs, and you got the Indian River Lagoon being cleansed and returned to where it should be. So the big picture, in Florida, we're going to save the Everglades, we're going to save our springs, we're going to protect the St. Johns River, and we will save the Indian River Lagoon for generations to come. Thanks to the leadership of this man, Governor Ron DeSantis. Thank you, sir.
Right, thank you.
Well, thanks, Rob, and I see our sheriff over here, Wayne Ivey. Great sheriff. Don't take for granted the quality of life you have in Brevard, because if you didn't have a law and order sheriff, you didn't have his deputies out there risking their life, you know, things would be worse, no question about it. And the one thing I've noticed across the country, as you've seen the collapse of places like Chicago and all these places, it's public safety. If you don't have that, the minute you lose that, everything else, education, economy, all that really starts to fray. And you know, Wayne has been one of the best sheriffs that we have in America, and so you guys are lucky to have him. And we're doing a lot for deporting illegal aliens in Florida. It's obviously a big initiative for the Trump administration, and people saw over Biden just massive influx with no controls or anything. It's really a horrible policy. So we're stepping up to try to correct that. And I called the special session of the Florida legislature at the beginning of the year, and I was like, listen, state and local agencies, law enforcement, have to be participating. You know, we've got to help. And the reality is, like, I wouldn't have had to done that legislation if everyone was as gung-ho as Wayne, because they would have done it, right? And the same thing with the state agencies. We didn't really need to do that because I was going to order the state agencies, hey, you guys got to be on the team here. But he's done a lot in that regard, probably, you know, over and above, you know, what other sheriffs around the country, you know, have done by a country mile. And that's significant. You know, I'm sick of seeing, you know, some angel mom who's like loses a son or daughter against crime, that somebody who's been deported from this country a couple times and is still here. That's not right. And we have an obligation to defend the people and their well-being here, and that's something I know that Wayne has taken very seriously. So just as governor, we're a law and order state. Our crime rate's at a 50-year low. We've enacted very strong policies. I mean, there's a reason why you've seen other states do very lax policies, and the results are predictably bad. And so we're proud of that. But I'll tell you, you know, leadership is not just me spouting off or me signing legislation. It's folks that are there every day getting the job done. So I appreciate what all our folks around the state are doing, but particularly here in Brevard, you know, I think you guys have been a great example of what law and order means. Okay, anybody have any questions back there?
I got one, Governor. Why did that have to without mid-decade?
Well, you'll have to ask him. I don't know what they're doing. I can tell you we had the redistricting fight in 2022. A lot of people remember that. The legislature produced a map that included bizarre racial gerrymandering that had been imposed by a liberal court the previous decade. I was like, I'm vetoing that. I am not signing it. They passed it. I vetoed it. So then we ended up doing a map that took away, you know, the gerrymandering, and it was a much better map. But it's interesting. We had a fight over, you know, most of the map, but then there was part of it that they insisted that now, and they said, oh, you know, governor's map isn't going to be constitutional. Well, the Florida Supreme Court upheld it. And that's what I said at the time would happen, and that's what happened. But if you read that court's opinion, I think that there's problems with our current congressional map in terms of violating the Constitution with racial gerrymandering that has to be addressed, not in North Florida, which we did address, but in Southern Florida. And then you just have this situation where 2020 to now in Florida, there's been a sea change in demography. I mean, we've never seen a state do what Florida's done. And look, there's positives and negatives. I mean, I am not saying, oh, we need more people to move here. I never say that because honestly, we've got a lot, and we've got to deal with the people we have here. But it's a free country, and people are going to go where they think they can be successful. But we had, because of COVID, we were open during COVID. We were law and order when so many of these other places were decaying. There's a lot of reasons why. So if you look now, we're not well apportioned as a state. So I said this when the Florida Supreme Court's decision came out that we are going to have to do a mid-decade redistricting. Now, I did see President Trump posted that he was going to redo the census. I think that should be done. Well, there's two things with the census. First, just how there was a question of, do you count illegal aliens in the census? And my answer is no, you shouldn't, because they're not authorized to be here in the first place. So why would you be counting? Why would you be counting in ways that reward sanctuary states like California, who openly flout federal immigration law? It doesn't make any sense. And I don't think the founders intended, like, what, if somebody's vacationing in America during the census period, like they just get counted? Obviously, you want to do people that are lawfully here. So I think that's one thing. But putting that aside, because they tried to do it in the first Trump administration. Justice Roberts basically kicked it for procedural reasons. So it didn't end up, we didn't get that change that a lot of us wanted to see. But even if you take the census as was, where they are counting illegal aliens, Florida still should have had another seat than what we got. And even Biden's administration came out with analysis a couple years later acknowledging that's the case. And so the errors that have been identified, imagine that, all the errors benefited Democrat states. So is that random? Or is that something that I don't know? But if they just did what the errors were determined to be, that would give us another seat. Now, they actually did a mid-decade census then, and they didn't count. California would lose 5 or 6 seats. I mean, it wouldn't even be close. Florida, we would probably gain 4 or 5 seats if they did mid-decade census. Definitely we'd gain at least 3. So if they do that, I don't know how quick they can do it. I don't know how that is. But if they did do it, and say came up with something, within like the next 6 months, which I don't know how, that's the Commerce Department and all that to do. And we gained a seat, that would require us to reportion congressional, because we have 28 now, we'd have 29, 30, 31 maybe, who knows? So obviously you'd have to redraw the lines then. If they just did the changes that even Biden admitted should have happened, then that gives us 1 more seat. We'd have to do it there. Short of that, we're in a situation where, we believe there's defects in the current map. We also believe that the districts are malapportioned because of the explosive growth that we've seen in the state of Florida. And so I think even if they don't do a new census, even if they don't revise the current census, I still think it is appropriate to be doing it. So, I'm going to be working with folks, in the legislature, but it'll be something that I think you can anticipate there'll be, good debate over. And look, these guys, Rob remembers some of these guys who were in, Thad was in, they draw their state house maps. Governor doesn't have a role in that. Fine. The state Senate maps, governor doesn't have a role. Congressional maps requires my signature. And so that's what I tried to tell them 4 years ago. I was like, look, I'm not going to sign this. And so you're in a situation where, it's better to just work, get something that's good, that's going to address, I think, the legal concerns that we have for the rest of the map, but also address the population disparities. There'll be congressional races where, like, one race gets a lot more votes than another race does. You can compare some of these, and it's like, okay, well, how is that fair that your vote counts a lot less in one district versus the other? So there's a lot, I think, going on there. there. I wasn't privy to anything that was going on, with the House Speaker's memo, but I can tell you that my folks are working on it. All right, thanks everybody. Appreciate it.
All right, so listening there.
All right, what's going on, everybody? How y'all doing out there? Appreciate y'all for joining me. We're waiting on President Trump to come out right now. We got 200 people in the building. Y'all please do me a favor and hit that like button, hit that like button, hit that like button. And also don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We got 200 people in the building as we wait on Trump to come out and talk about what is his plans to attack homelessness and crime. It's getting bad in D.C., according to the reports. It's getting bad out there. I know in my area, I see a lot of homeless people sleeping on mattresses, just on the sidewalk. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. So I think we have to address that. I think we have to tackle that. We got to figure out something, especially there is a lot of veterans that are homeless too, that need help. Okay, let's see what we got going on next, guys. Appreciate y'all for joining me. I'm your host, the one and only Stock Sniper. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Appreciate y'all for joining me. Appreciate y'all for rocking with me. Hope y'all having a great morning. Hope y'all had a great weekend. And let's get ready to see what's going on with this day.
DC's young people have a bright future when we support them. I know this as with Black Swan Academy, having the privilege to work with thousands and hundreds of young people all across DC, and I'm so excited to be able to introduce you to one of those bright spots, Marcus Williams. Can we give it up for Marcus?
Hello everybody. My name is Marcus Williams. I'm a youth organizer with Black Swan Academy, graduate of Anacostia High School, and incoming freshman. Thank you. And incoming freshman at Morehouse College. Today, I will be speaking out against the harsh reality of what some people believe will change and reform our city for the better. Growing up in DC, specifically Ward 8, it was hard, and I do want my community to be free of violence, but simply locking people up is not the answer. History has proven that. True safety is not about increasing police presence, it's making sure every person has the resources they need to thrive mentally, physically, and emotionally. In honest words, has anybody ever stopped to wonder why the violence in these neighborhoods are happening? People talk about reforming and building a new DC instead of trying to solve and fix the issues happening inside of DC already. And firstly, how can you change or reform a place when the residents of DC did not elect you? DC is our home. It is my home. The people of DC deserve to be heard, and our needs must be addressed with our own communities and with local elected officials. We have the power to represent us. Secondly, back to the topic at hand, the new DC with these harsh laws, like being charged as an adult at 14, your brain doesn't even fully develop until 23 at most times. And you think charging a young child at 14 as an adult will make DC better? Youth already go through a lot, especially with mental health, and we also don't have enough resources as it is. And your first idea of a way to make a new and better DC is by making a law that hurts young people, a law that creates fear in the young community, especially in the Black community. African Americans as a whole have suffered specifically from police violence, and you want us to make it easier for Black youth to be even more criminalized or labeled as criminals? It will not help DC for the better, and it will actually cause more trouble. Furthermore, how can you kick out a group of people that has nowhere to go? Homelessness has been one of the biggest issues in DC for who knows how long, and instead of trying to solve it and find better solutions for it, you want to kick people out? For the past year, it has come to my attention that the DC government has been moving away from trying to fix homelessness, but why? You talk about making DC new and better and all this other stuff, but how can you do that when you're trying to avoid a problem instead of fixing it. How can we reform as a city if people can't? How can we reform as a city if people can't see? Instead of taking the money out of shelters and programs, put more and more money and time into these shelters and programs, so that in due time, homelessness doesn't even have to be a problem in DC. Instead of avoiding the issues and problems inside of DC and threatening the lives of people in it, why not put more programs in place to help youth not succumb to violence they may see in their everyday lives? Trump has already cut programs for SNAP, health professionals, and TANF, instead of adding more trained mental health professionals, adding more and more SNAP and TANF money, and making more places for youth so that they don't have to resort to violence. Thank you for listening.
When black youth are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back.
When black youth are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back.
When black youth are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back.
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back.
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back. Thank you.
All right, a DC united will never be defeated. A DC united will never be defeated. A DC united will never be defeated.
A DC united will never be defeated. A DC united will never be defeated.
All right, next up, we have Sam Epps with us, the president of the Metropolitan Washington Council, AFL-CIO.
Thank you. And again, Marcus, we wish you the best at Morehouse, and we look forward to you becoming a leader here in D.C. again. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, D.C. My name is Sam Epps, and I'm the president of the Metropolitan Washington Council, AFL-CIO. We are a council of more than 150 local unions who together represent 150,000 workers in D.C. and in Maryland. Our movement includes restaurant workers, firefighters, teachers, electrical workers, construction workers, and many other industries that make D.C. run. Trump's attacks on federal workers has hit D.C. region harder than any other place in the country. The federal government and affiliate industries are the backbone of D.C.'s economy. More than 50,000 D.C. residents are employed by the federal government, about 13% of all jobs in D.C. By comparison, federal jobs are 1.9% of all jobs nationwide. And if this president really cared about safety in D.C., he wouldn't be spiking unemployment rates here in D.C. If Trump cared about safety in D.C., he would reinstate all fired federal workers today so these workers can provide for their families. If Trump really cared about safety in D.C., he would respect the collective bargaining rights of federal unions so that D.C. workers can fight for wages and conditions that they deserve. But he has not done that. Instead, he has steadily eliminated the jobs that people in D.C. rely on. The workers who process VA benefits, Social Security checks, who run our airports, who keep our food safe, they all deserve to provide for their families. The good news is there's much more in D.C. than the federal government. There's go-go music, there's mambo sauce, as is there the federal government. And you know what? The federal government needs D.C. The federal government needs D.C. hotel workers who provide lodging for millions of Americans who visit D.C. each year. The federal government needs D.C. first responders who heroically defended the Capitol on January 6th. The federal government needs D.C. transit workers who get thousands of D.C. area commuters to work every day. The federal government needs D.C. food service workers who serve millions of meals to people in this city every single day. And the federal government needs D.C. municipal workers who make our city runs and cleans up federal parks. We have a saying in the labor movement, if you come from one of us, you come for all of us. Injustice to one worker is an injustice to all of us. And workers make D.C. run, and this city can't run without us. So we are here in solidarity with D.C. workers today. We join every day in calling for free D.C. Because when we fight, thank you.
Take it to the streets. This our D.C. No justice, no peace. Take it to the streets. This our D.C. No justice, no peace. Take it to the streets. No justice. Okay, y'all. But that's
get it right.
What it is take it to the streets. This our D.C. If we don't get no justice, they're not going to get any peace. My name is Nene Taylor, Neeetay. LOR. I'm a co-founder of Free DC Project, and I'm also the executive director and co-founder of Harriet's Wildest Dreams. The only violence that's happening in DC right now is the violence against our communities that this president is directing. For 4 nights straight, the president has been trying to provoke violence here, right here, in the black communities and in the brown communities, having ICE kidnap our neighbors, having the black community be harassed and profiled and want a response. We say, hell no, we won't go. Hell no, we won't go. We won't go. Hell no, we won't go. When we say we won't go, that means we're not going into those mass incarceration, into their prisons and enslavement. We won't go into their ICE, what do you call? His beautiful centers that he got. We won't go to where alligators live. Hell no, we won't go.
Oh my God, bro.
Today we gather to speak plainly about policy paths that sound strong, but in truth, it weakens the very safety we seek. We believe there is a better way to protect us all. One that respects rights to build trust and keep our communities truly safe, and that is fascism free. Free is not a roadmap to safety. It is a burial. It fails hardest on the black communities that already we bear a disproportionate share of surveillance, stops, and forces. I want to be clear. We've been here before. This is a long history. Well before today, the black communities bear the brunt of aggressive policing. Data and reports from many credible organizations show patterns. Black people are more likely to be stopped, searched, questioned, arrested, and harmed in encounters with the law. When we add the presence of federal agents or the National Guard to daily life in these neighborhoods, the burden can multiply. Not by making harm more rare, but making it more visible and more likely to escalate. So be clear, this has been going on. But as you bring more policemen, it's going to escalate. Black Washingtonians have long recognized that community violence cannot be solved through state violence and have asked for meaningful investments and solutions that are proven to work. Racist over-policing goes beyond D.C. as the roots of American policing in many regions, like enslaved patrols. Police have been enslaving and murdering black people with freedom for punishment for centuries. I stand in front of you today with a signal to the residents of D.C. and the country that we will not be idle as oppressive structures try to harm our communities and take power. The fight for black liberation and the liberation of all people will not stop no matter our oppression, intimidation, manipulation tactics. We have the right to demand respect, to protect ourselves and protect each other. And as the executive director of Hers Wildest Dreams, I want to name white people's civil rights have never been in danger because they are white. The white civil rights represents the desire from the Jim Crow. Full stop. At Hers Wildest Dreams, and as we support Free DC, we're fighting against mass incarceration, policing, ICE, violence towards immigrants and Muslims, violence in Palestine, worker exploitation, and more. We're fighting for freedom and safety for all people, including black, brown, people who are women, feminine, queer, trans, gender non-conforming, immigrants, disability, poor, and more. We're not free until all of us are free. We will not stand here and allow authoritarianism in Washington, D.C. We are going to be here, and we're not backing down. Know that the safety of a community is inseparable from its sense of belonging and justice, not its fear of somebody's uniform. Let us choose future where safety is earned through justice, not enforced by intimidation. Where black communities, indeed all communities, feel protected, respected, included in the decisions that shape the lives of people in D.C. And I advise you, if Nene Tay is ever killed by the police or held in a jail cell, don't you sit back and cry for me, you go raise hell. Free DC! Free DC! Free DC! Ashe.
Thank you, Nene. Our next speaker is Nadia Salazar, a core organizer with Colectivo Familias Migrantes.
Hi everyone, my name is Nadia. I am an organizer with the Colectivo Familias Migrantes. Very proudly representing our community. Yo estoy hoy día con el Colectivo de Familias Migrantes. The district, much like the U.S., was built on the genocide of Native communities and by the forced and violent oppression of kidnapped African people and their descendants. With this, there's a vast history of discrimination and displacement that D.C. holds on the same people who built it. Therefore, this is our responsibility to ensure that our Black and migrant communities, knowing that these identities can and do intersect, that we have been impacted by the systemic injustice long before ICE began these tactics. After all, slave patrols were the earliest form of police in America, and ICE is just another iteration of that. From criminalizing Black and brown residents through the omnibus bills that they present, through sneaky removals of protections of our migrant communities, DC is constantly under attack and targeted. We live in a time where migrant children are being removed from their foster homes, where construction sites fall silent when the sun rises while our community is kidnapped, where raids are so common we teach school songs to children that are in elementary school. We live in a time where our neighbors are disappearing and are going to state-sanctioned concentration camps like Alligator Alcatraz. And all we came here for when we migrated was safety. Our message is clear. Safety is our children going to school without fear of getting back to an empty home. Safety is restaurant workers going to work freely without fearing their own kidnapping. Safety is school nurses caring for our children without fear of being separated of their own children. Safety is not choosing between deportation or calling an ambulance because you're about to die. Safety is investing in our communities, not our surveillance. Safety is ICE out of our neighborhoods, our schools, our libraries, our construction sites, and our communities. Safety is ICE out of DC. Tengo un mensaje muy claro para la comunidad inmigrante. La seguridad significa que nuestros niños vayan a la escuela sin temor a llegar a una casa vacía. La seguridad significa que inviertan en nuestras escuelas y en nuestros niños. La seguridad significa salir a las calles sin miedo de no retornar a casa. La seguridad significa que inmigración no nos está persiguiendo todos los días. La seguridad significa que nuestras comunidades estén unidas. Thank you all so much. We're here because we believe in free DC. Say free DC. Free? Free. DC. DC. Say free. Free. DC. DC.
Thank you, Nadia. Next up, we have Reverend T.C. Morrow, pastor for public witness for Ecumenical Connections at Foundry United Methodist Church.
Good morning. I'm Reverend T.C. Morrow, and I'm grounded this day in a piece of scripture from my own Christian tradition from Matthew 25. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food, or thirsty and gave you something to drink? And when was it we saw you a stranger and welcomed you, or naked and gave you clothing? And when was it that we saw you sick or in prison and visited you? And the king will answer them, truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters of mine, you did it to me. Let us pray. Oh God, who we know by many names, we give thanks for the air that we breathe this day, for the city sounds that surround us, and our ability to gather this day to witness on behalf of the 7,000 people who call the District of Columbia home. You have empowered people of faith and conscience across the ages, oh God, to stand up against injustice and cruelty. In the face of attacks on our freedom and true safety, we ask you to be with us this day as we seek dignity for our residents, to protect home rule, and for true safety for our communities. Be with your people of the District of Columbia who seek to fully govern ourselves at the local level, just as others do in states across our country. Be with our unhoused residents and uphold the dignity of all, regardless where any of us spend our days or our evenings. Oh God, let us fight poverty, not the poor. Oh God, guide and protect those who provide care and safety, true safety in our communities. Grant wisdom to leaders in our community and at all levels of government. Oh God, grant courage and strength to those who strive for justice and care for the most vulnerable among us. And oh God, grant true protection this day and in the days to come, true protection and safety to all of your people of the District of Columbia. Amen. Free DC.
Thank you, Reverend TC. Free DC! Free DC! Free DC! Free DC! Free DC! Woo! All right, next up we have Jesse Rabinowitz, Campaign and Communications Director at the National Homelessness Law Center.
Good morning. My name is Jesse. I'm a DC resident and I work at the National Homelessness Law Center. The National Homelessness Law Center runs the Housing Not Handcuffs campaign, a nationwide movement to fight back against laws that make it a crime to be homeless. Before joining the Law Center, I worked for about a decade in DC to solve homelessness. I am here today to talk about the devastating impacts of Trump's vile proposal to force homeless folks out of DC. I want to start with 2 points. One, this is not surprising. Trump has talked for years about his sick desire to round up homeless people and force them into government-run detention camps. He has reversed course on real solutions to homelessness and proposed a budget that would gut funding for housing and support. His recent order paved the way to lock people up for being poor, sick, and disabled, and he continually aligns himself with far right-wing billionaires who are pushing anti-homeless laws around the country. When a fascist tells you who they are, believe them. Locking up people you don't like or don't want to see is textbook authoritarianism. Trump is testing opinion by focusing on groups that he believes to have little public sympathy, like folks who live outside. Right now, they are coming for homeless folks, trans folks, and migrants. But rest assured, soon they will come for everyone who is not a white, straight, cis, wealthy Christian man. The only solution is solidarity and collective action. Folks not in D.C. might not be aware that, unlike in other cities, the federal government controls most of D.C.'s parks and green spaces. For this reason, the homeless folks living in these parks will be among the first hurt by Trump's backwards and dangerous anti-homelessness approach. But what starts in D.C. will spread to the rest of the country. Trump is using D.C. as a sandbox, which will have deadly and disastrous impacts on the real people who live here. This issue is personal to me.
Listening in here to a rally being held in Washington, D.C., protesting against President Trump's policies. But now we are seeing that several members of his administration are walking into the press briefing room as we wait for President Trump. Let's go ahead and listen in live.
Wow. I've been up here a lot. I've never seen a crowd like this. I think we need a ballroom, and that's happening. It's going to be a beautiful ballroom. This is really a lot of people. Most of in control very quickly like we did on the southern border. I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back. Under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States, I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that. Very good people, but they're tough, and they know what's happening, and they've done it before. In addition, I'm deploying the National Guard to help reestablish law, order, and public safety in Washington, D.C., and they're going to be allowed to do their job properly. And you people are victims of it, too. You know, you're reporters, and I understand a lot of you tend to be on the liberal side, but you don't want to get mugged and raped and shot and killed. And you all know people and friends of yours that happened. And so you can be anything you want, but you want to have safety in the streets. You want to be able to leave your apartment or your house where you live and feel safe and go into a store to buy a newspaper or buy something. And you don't have that now. The murder rate in Washington today is higher than that of Bogota, Colombia, Mexico City, some of the places that you hear about as being the worst places on earth. Much higher. This is much higher. The number of car thefts has doubled over the past 5 years, and the number of carjackings has more than tripled. Murders in 2023 reached the highest rate probably ever. They say 25 years, but they don't know what that means because it just goes back 25 years. Can't be worse. Our capital city has been overtaken by violent gangs and bloodthirsty criminals, roving mobs of wild youth, drugged out maniacs and homeless people. And we're not going to let it happen anymore. We're not going to take it. Just like we did on our southern border. Nobody comes to our southern border anymore. 3 months in a row, we had zero. I don't know if that's right, but the people that do the work, it's a very liberal group of people, actually, and they actually said zero for the last 3 months. Nobody thought a thing like that was possible. And, you know, when you say take a look at numbers, I just saw some charts. These are different cities throughout the world. Red is... Okay, the red is a place called Washington, D.C. Look at these. Baghdad we doubled up on Baghdad. Panama City, Brasilia, San Jose, Costa Rica, Bogota, Colombia, heavy drugs. Mexico City, I mentioned, Lima, Peru, all double and triple what they are. So do you want to live in places like that? I don't think so. I don't think so. And I think the people in this room, if you wrote correctly, you'd see, look at the kind of numbers we have. D.C., 41 per 100,000, number one that we can find anywhere in the world. Other cities are pretty bad, but they're not as bad as that. That where you want to live? The reporters of the world? Juvenile offenders and crimes against persons, as they say. It's getting worse. Not getting better, it's getting worse. And we had a recent indication. There was a story about a man who was just left. He quit because he was asked to do phony numbers on crime. And we're going to look into that. I think Pam is going to be looking into that. But he was asked by the city, I guess, that we don't want to show the real numbers. Let me do numbers so it looks like it's going down. Not going down. And under Biden, it was a disaster. And nobody did anything about it. We're going to do things about it like you wouldn't believe. Every American has a constitutional right to be able to access and petition their government in safety, and countless federal officials and employees likewise have the right to carry out their jobs in peace without being shot. As you know, I lost a very good person a while ago, was shot waiting for his wife. He was in the car. They robbed his car. They shot him. They killed him like it was nothing to it. She was walking to the car. It's a horror show. This issue directly impacts the functioning of the federal government and is a threat to America, really. It's a threat to our country. We have other cities also that are bad, very bad. You look at Chicago, how bad it is. You look at Los Angeles, how bad it is. We have other cities that are very bad. New York has a problem. And then you have, of course, Baltimore and Oakland. We don't even mention that anymore. They're so far gone. We're not going to let it happen. We're not going to lose our cities over this. And this will go further. We're starting very strongly with D.C., and we're going to clean it up real quick, very quickly, as they say. Days ago, a former member of the DOJ staff was savagely beaten by a band of roving thugs after defending a young woman from an attempted carjacking. He was left dripping in blood. He thought he was dead, with a broken nose and concussion. Can't believe that he's alive. He can't believe it. In June, a 21-year-old congressional intern was tragically killed after being hit by a stray bullet in a drive-by shooting. A former Trump administration official named Mike Gill, fantastic person, was murdered last year in cold blood in a carjacking blocks away from the White House. We all knew him. Great person. Waiting for his wife as she was walking to the car. A Democrat congressman was also carjacked at gunpoint not far from the Capitol. And in 2023, an aide to Senator Rand Paul was stabbed in the chest and head by a demented lunatic as he walked down the street, just absolutely for no reason. Horrifically, last July 4th weekend, a 3-year-old girl was shot in the head and killed while sitting in a car near the Capitol. It's becoming a situation of complete and total lawlessness. And we're getting rid of the slums, too. We have slums here. We're getting rid of them. I know it's not politically correct. You'll say, oh, so terrible. No, we're getting rid of the slums where they live. caravans of mass youth rampage through city streets at all times of the day. There are ATVs, motorbikes. They travel pretty well. Entire neighborhoods are now under emergency curfews. Just this past weekend, gunfire went through, and you saw that, the Navy Yard. I saw it this morning. They saw that they fought back against law. See, they fight back until you knock the hell out of them, because it's the only language they understand. But they fought back against law enforcement last night. And they're not going to be fighting back long, because I've instructed them and told them whatever happens, you know, they love to spit in the face of the police. As the police are standing up there in uniform, they're standing and they're screaming at them an inch away from their face. And then they start spitting in their face. And I said, you tell them, you spit and we hit. And they can hit real hard. It's a disgusting thing. I've watched that for years, for 3-4 years. I've watched them. The police are standing, and they're told, don't do anything under any search. So and you can see they want to get at it. And they're standing there, and people are spitting in their face, and they're not allowed to do anything. But now they are allowed to do whatever the hell they want. This dire public safety crisis stems directly from the abject failures of the city's local leadership. The radical left city council adopted no cash bail. By the way, every place in the country where you have no cash bail is a disaster. That's what started the problem in New York, and they don't change it. They don't want to change it. That's what started it in Chicago. I mean, bad politicians started it, bad leadership started it, but that was the one thing that's central, no cash bail. Somebody murders somebody and they're out on no cash bail before the day is out. And we're going to end that in Chicago. We're going to change the statute. I spoke with Pam and Todd and everybody. We're going to change this.
Hello, the Don. How you doing, bro? Appreciate you for joining me. Thank you for joining me, the Don.
They don't know why they want to stop, because they get mugged too. But we're going to change no cash bail. We're going to change the statute and get rid of some of the other things. And we'll count on the Republicans in Congress and Senate to vote. We have the majority, so we'll vote. We don't have a big majority, but we've gotten everything, including the great, big, beautiful bill. Got that done, and that's one of the greatest things that's ever happened to people in this country. They're starting to figure it out, how good it is.
Hello, the eyes don't lie. How you doing? How you doing? Appreciate you for joining me.
You and Pam can draw up things working with the people. I'll get it passed. We'll get it passed with the Republicans. Probably won't get, think of this, probably won't get one Democrat vote, because they have no idea what they're doing. That's why they want men playing in women's sports. That's why they want transgender for everybody transgender. And they just got walloped in an election, in a landslide, and they haven't changed one thing. I saw the other day the certain gentleman who was very well-known politician, Democrat, was fighting like hell that men should be allowed to play in women's sport. They just don't get it. They said it's an 80-20 issue, and I think it's a 97-3 issue. And I don't know who the three are. I've never heard anybody nobody's ever come up to me, sir, you have to let men play in women's sports. You have to do it, sir. Nobody's ever approached me. I don't know where this issue even comes from. Never seen anything like it. But they turned our nation's capital into a sanctuary jurisdiction. That's the other thing. We have to get rid of sanctuary cities as quickly as possible. We're going to do it, too. We have to. Because it's sanctuary for criminals. Releasing illegal alien gang members onto the streets in 2022, nearly 70% of criminals arrested in Washington went unprosecuted. That's not going to happen with the group we have standing aside and standing behind me. And at the Metropolitan Police Department, it's now reached a small number relatively compared to what it was, but it's thousands of people. You know, we have thousands of police. I was told today, sir, they want more police. I heard a number, 3,500 police. That's a lot of police. 3,500. I thought they were going to say we only have 30 policemen or women. He said, we have 3,500. We need more. You don't need more. That's so many. I never heard. That's like an army. How could you need more than 3,000? It just happened 2 minutes ago. Sir, they've requested more police. Oh, what do they have? About 3,500. I said, 3,500? This is not a big area. It's ridiculous. What you need is rules and regulations, and you need the right people to implement them. And we have the right people here, that I can tell you. Look at the border. Biden said, there's nothing you can do. Kamala was the border czar. She never called one of the Border Patrol agents who are great. ICE is great. Never spoke to anybody. Never went there. But she was the border czar. And everybody said it was impossible to fix. I fixed it in 3 months. No, really. I fixed it the first week, but really fixed it over the last couple of months. And I mean, literally to a point where, as I said, 0 illegals entering our country in the last 90 days. Pretty amazing. It's time for dramatic action. We're going to do the same thing over here. It's going to be a very safe city very soon. We're not looking to take years, because a lot of people die in years. And we've got incredible people in this country, except we have to allow them to do their job. And that we will deliver like nobody's ever delivered before. I actually think it's easy. You know, if you're competent, it's easy. If you're incompetent, it's impossible. But I'm very competent. Last week, my administration surged 500 federal agents into the district, including from the FBI, ATF, DEA, Park Police, the U.S. Marshal Service, the Secret Service, and the Department of Homeland Security. You know, a lot of nations, they don't have anything like that. They got some police, and they're rough police. They don't have DEA, ATF, FBI, Park Police, the U.S. Marshal Service, Secret Service, Department of Homeland Security. They got some police, but they're rough police, and they do their job. They don't have crime. We're not going to have crime either. They made dozens of arrests, and that's what starts to happen. Again, cashless bail. Watch what we do with that. Today, we're formally declaring a public safety emergency. This is an emergency. This is a tragic emergency. And it's embarrassing for me to be up here. You know, I'm going to see Putin. I'm going to Russia on Friday. I don't like being up here talking about how unsafe and how dirty and disgusting this once beautiful capital was, with graffiti all over the walls. It's another part of it, by the way, because we're talking about safety, but we're also talking about beautification. We have the most beautiful, potentially, capital in the world. We always had. But people come from Iowa, they come from Indiana, they come and then they get mugged. Not going to happen. Keep coming, because by the time you get your trip set, it's going to be safe again, and it's going to be clean very quickly. We're going to replace the medians that are falling down all over the roads. We're going to replace the potholes. We're going to put a nice new coat of asphalt over the top. No, we don't have to rip the road out and spend 7 years building a new road because they cut everything. Because some designer said, well, we need a 1/4 of an inch more turn for safety reasons. No, we're going to do it right. We're going to get it done quickly. So today we're declaring public safety emergency in the District of Columbia. And Attorney General Mamdani, who's fantastic, is taking command of the Metropolitan Police Department as of this moment. And I'll be making the appropriate notifications to Congress and to the mayor, our new DEA administrator, who's one of the top in the country. He better be Terry. If you're not, I'm going to get rid of you so fast. Terry Cole. Terry, thanks. Very good. We just got him. Most highly recommended person. And you'll be designated as the interim federal commissioner of the Metropolitan Police Department. Okay? And you run them tough. They're good. You have a lot of good people. You have people that shouldn't be there. You also have people that shouldn't be there. They got in there because of woke. But you have a lot of great police. And those people are the ones that want to help you. This city will no longer be a sanctuary for illegal alien criminals. We will have full, seamless, integrated cooperation at all levels of law enforcement. and we'll deploy officers across the district with an overwhelming presence. You'll have more police, and you'll be so happy because you'll be safe. When you walk down the street, you're going to see police, or you're going to see FBI agents. We're going to have a lot of agents on the street. You're going to have a lot of essentially military, and we will bring in the military if it's needed, by the way. We're going to have National Guard. But Pete Hegseth will tell you about it. We will bring in the military if needed. People say, oh, that's so terrible. He's going to bring in, it's been used many times over the years. I don't think we'll need it. I think we've got so many great people, including the people that are in the police department with proper leadership. They'll immediately begin massive enforcement operations targeting known gangs, drug dealers, and criminal networks to get them the hell off the street, maybe get them out of the country, because a lot of them came into our country illegally. They shouldn't have been allowed in. They come from Venezuela. They come from all over the world. We're going to get them the hell out. They won't be here long. But some of these people, a lot of them, are homegrown criminals. And these are bad people. These are rough people. And this is just a list of some of the people that were given to me today that were criminals removed from the D.C. streets this weekend. They were rough and tough. But we're rougher and tougher. Look at these people here. Nothing, you know. They're not going to be your local school teacher. Look at this guy. He has killed people numerous times. They're not going to be an asset. They will never be an asset to society. I don't care. I know we all want to say, oh, they're going to be rehabbed. It's not going to be rehabbed. I'm going to ask Doug Burgum to come up and say a couple of words because he's in charge, as you know. He's Interior, but he's in charge of the U.S. Park Police. And I've heard so many great things about the Park Police. They're proud of it. They've been there for a long time. Their families oftentimes grow into the roles. They love the country. They love this area. So, Doug, could you say a few words, please?
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the U.S. Park Police, this is the oldest federal police force in the nation. They were formed in 1791 by none other than President George Washington. They've got the awesome responsibility of protecting our nation's most sacred monuments. In the National Mall, Washington Monument, Jefferson Memorial, Lincoln Memorial, Statue of Liberty, and out west, the Presidio and the Golden Gate area. These folks have tens of millions of visitors a year, the kind of people that President Trump's talking about that come from around the country and around the world to see our sacred and learn about our history and our sacred monuments. They've been doing a fantastic job, but they are so pleased, the rank and file, that President Trump is now allowing them to enforce the law. As those of you that live in the city may know, that the circles and the triangle parks that are spread throughout D.C. are actually federal park property. So the U.S. Park Police also have responsibility for that. These became littered with homeless camps under the Biden administration. All of you saw that. Since President Trump's executive order on March 27th, making D.C. safe and beautiful again, the U.S. Park Police have removed over 70 homeless camps. And President Trump also talked about beautification. They're stopping and enforcing the laws against graffiti on our monuments. They've removed over 80 specific attacks against our history with graffiti on our monuments. So they continue to do a great job, whether it's in their vehicles, on foot, or on the mounted police that you see around the National Mall. And President Trump, they thank you. The rank and file is so happy to be enforcing the law again. Thank you for your leadership. And they're excited about the announcement you're making today.
Thank you very good. Great job, Pete. Thank you very much. Pete, could you say something about the military?
Well, Mr. President, it's an honor to be here. And at your direction this morning, we've mobilized the D.C. National Guard. It'll be operationalized by the Secretary of the Army, Dan Driscoll, through the D.C. Guard. You will see them flowing into the streets of Washington in the coming week. At your direction as well, sir, there are other units we are prepared to bring in. Other National Guard units, other specialized units. They will be strong, they will be tough, and they will stand with their law enforcement partners. This is nothing new for DOD, as the President noted, at the border. We've got 10,000 troops down there who've been operating in defense cooperation areas, defense zones, where there's zero illegal crossings because of troops on strikers scanning the border. We've been protecting other people's borders for 20 years. It's about time we protect our own. And we're working with ICE and CBP. In Los Angeles, we did the same thing. working with the California National Guard, working with ICE officers. ICE officers deserve to do their job and not be attacked. We will work alongside all DC police and federal law enforcement to ensure this city is safe, this city is beautiful, and as I always say about President Trump to the troops, he has their back. And my message to the National Guard and federal law enforcement in Washington is, we have your back as well. Be tough, be strong, we're right behind you.
I'm going to ask Pam, because she's now, as you heard me say, she's really in charge of a lot of what we're talking about. She's done an incredible job. People are going to start to see the fruits of her labor. And Pam, maybe you could say a few words about what we're talking about here.
Let me be crystal clear. Crime in D.C. is ending and ending today. We are going to use every power we have to fight criminals here. President, thank you for caring about our capital. Families come here every summer. Our museums are free. We have the National Zoo. We have the National Gallery. D.C. should be a place where everyone can come and feel safe. Behind me and to my side, we have some of the best career law enforcement and prosecutors in the country who are ready to take this on. As the president said, Terry Cole is going to be supervising the Metro Police Department. Gadi Serralta, our U.S. Marshal, is going to be supervising command and control, the entire operation. Our Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, and I will be working with them closely, along with our great FBI Director, Kash Patel. Kash is going to talk to you in a minute about what we did in Virginia recently with Governor Youngkin. Many of you covered that, and it was tremendously successful. Not only that, our secret weapon here in D.C. is U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, one of the toughest prosecutors and a former judge. And she is going to be talking about juvenile crime, how it's out of control here, and what she's going to do to fight back. No more crime rampant in our beautiful capital. No more teenage girls beating a disabled man to death. No more of that. No more drive-bys. We're going to do everything we can. And working with the ATF Director Driscoll and Commander of the Army, we're going to all work together. That's what we all do in this room. We work together, we fight. Do not underestimate one person in this room. We're going to make DC beautiful. We're going to make DC safe again. One other thing, just at the wharf a few days ago, the area of the wharf, Terry Cole reached out to me, not even nightfall, on the weekend, where so many families and tourists go. A guy's overdosing from fentanyl on a park bench. In the middle of families around, they administer Narcan and saved his life. No more of that. The President of the United States is going to clean up D.C., and we're going to be there to help him, and we're going to be successful. Thank you.
Northern Virginia, we had a big success.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Attorney General Bondi, for your leadership, Deputy Attorney General, and the rest of our interagency partners. Mr. President, the following is what happens when you let good cops be cops, and I just want to highlight that before I get into Northern Virginia. This year alone, under President Trump's administration, we've had over 4,000 child victims identified and found. That's a 33% increase from the same time period last year. 33% increase. We've had a seizure of 1,500 kilograms of fentanyl up to this date. That is a 25% increase since the same time period last year. And just to put it in perspective, 1,500 kilograms of fentanyl is enough to kill 115 million Americans. 115 million Americans. Cops are getting after it. The FBI has arrested 19,000 people this year alone. Thanks to President Trump's administration, that's double than where we were this time last year. And we have also arrested 1,600 people who have committed violent acts against children. 270 of them are human traffickers of children. Mr. President, this is what happens when you have great leadership as the Attorney General with Pam Bondi. Your administration's priority of protecting the homeland and protecting American citizens and protecting our children, and the murder rates are plummeting. We are now able to report that the murder rate is on track to be the lowest in U.S. history, in modern recorded U.S. history, thanks to this team behind me and President Trump's priorities. And how do we do it? And what are we going to bring to D.C.? What we did in Northern Virginia, thanks to Terry Cole and Governor Youngkin and the team, we stood up a task force out in my Northern Virginia field office, and we said, let's let good cops be cops. Let's get them the intelligence and what they need, and let's get the red tape out of their way, and let's get DOJ partnered up with us to bring great prosecutions. And that's exactly what we did. In 1 month, we arrested 545 violent felons. 545 in the state of Virginia, thanks to Governor Youngkin's partnership. And that simplicity in law enforcement is what's coming to Washington, D.C. When you let good cops be cops, when you give them the intel they need, when you work with our Homeland Security Task Force, when you work with Terry and Gaddy and I go way back to Miami. These guys are great leaders of the respective departments and law enforcement capacities. And when you have the DOJ and President Trump driving behind this mission, we are going to clean up Washington, D.C., and we're going to do it the right way, the lawful way, and we're going to make sure Washington, D.C. is safe again. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Attorney General.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Cash. So the process begins right now. It actually started over the weekend, and we confronted a lot of very bad people. But it's going to be something that will be pretty amazing to you as you watch it. And I think most of you say it's a beautiful thing to do it right. We're going to be removing homeless encampments from all over our parks, our beautiful, beautiful parks, which now a lot of people can't walk on. They're very dirty, we got a lot of problems. But we've already started that. We're moving the encampments away, trying to take care of people. Some of those people, we don't know how they even got there. Some of those people are from different countries, different parts of the world. Nobody knows who they are. They have no idea, but they're there. We're getting rid of the people from underpasses and public spaces from all over the city. There are many places that they can go, and we're going to help them as much as you can help. But they'll not be allowed to turn our capital into a wasteland for the world to see. The Metropolitan Police Department and the federal authorities will be supported in the effort, a really big effort, the 800 D.C. National Guardsmen that we'll put on, and much more if necessary, much more. You remember I said, I offered 10,000 once. Remember I said to a certain person, who I thought always was highly overrated, not very competent, but I said, if you need them, we'll give you 10,000 of the military or the National Guard. They turned me down. But if necessary, we're going to move service members directly to joining the Guardsmen, and that'll take place very rapidly, and that'll be done in conjunction with Pam and with Pete and everybody else. Washington, D.C. should be one of the safest, cleanest, and most beautiful cities anywhere in the world, and we're going to make it that. We're going to make it safe. We're going to make it smart. We're going to make it beautiful, so beautiful. Some of the buildings, we're going to add to it. You see what we've done at the White House. White House is a whole different building. I do that in my part-time because it's a natural instinct as a real estate person. I was very good at that, and I was very good at fixing things up. I like fixing things up. You see what's happening. The marble floors are being reinstalled, renovated, fixed. The whole place is becoming very beautiful. We're going to be adding a magnificent ballroom, most beautiful ballroom, I think, anywhere. We need it. I would have certainly loved to have had it today. I think we would have filled it up. A lot of you are standing outside, can't get in this room. I have never seen the room like this, which tells me that you want to talk about, I mean, this was a D.C. news conference. It tells me that you want to talk about crime in D.C. and beautification of D.C., but I'm going to put that's easy. And I think, frankly, fixing the crime with the pros, fixing the crime is easy, too. A person who I've known for a long time, and she's been incredible. She was a fantastic, one of the best ever district attorneys in New York. She was in Westchester and became a judge, very successful judge. And then she went into showbiz because she was such a good DA and such a good judge, tough judge, but fair, always fair. Nobody ever complained about that, but she was tough. And because of that and her reputation, she went into showbiz. So a lot of people don't, they think of Janine as showbiz. Actually, showbiz was not her thing. And she did great. She was on, along with a couple of other of my friends, on the #1 show. And she did great. But this is what she loves doing. This is really her baby. What she's going to do is going to be incredible. And I'd like to speak for just a few seconds on what she has in mind, what she wants to do. We're going to be appointing some judges. You know, we have some open spots, and we're going to take people, because the judges are letting killers out. They just say, go, it's okay, don't worry about it. So we're putting some, Pam recommended, Todd recommended, some judges that are great. Janine recommended. Janine's given me 3 great candidates already. We have about 10 open spots, so we can probably create some more. We need them. Janine, would you say a few words, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you, Madam Attorney General, and to all my partners here. We all want the same thing. We all want a safe city. We want a safe capital. We want to be able to bring our families here. We want to be able to come and enjoy the history that makes this place great. And unfortunately, we are not in that position right now. And Mr. President, I want to thank you for taking the step that we need right now to make criminals understand that they are not going to get away with it anymore. And I'm not going to stand here and go over and over the cases. But what I can tell you is this. I see too much violent crime being committed by young punks who think that they can get together in gangs and crews and beat the hell out of you or anyone else. They don't care where they are. They can be in DuPont Circle, but they know that we can't touch them. Why? Because the laws are weak. I can't touch you if you're 14, 15, 16, 17 years old and you have a gun. I convict someone of shooting another person with an illegal gun on a public bus in the chest, intent to kill. I convict him. And you know what the judge gives him? Probation. Says you should go to college. We need to go after the DC Council and their absurd laws. We need to get rid of this concept of, no cash bail. We need to recognize that the people who matter are the law-abiding citizens, and it starts today. But it's not going to end today, because the president is going to do everything we need to do to make sure that these emboldened criminals understand we see you, we're watching you, and we're going to change the law to catch you. And my final note is this. These kids understand that the jurisdiction is through the State Attorney General, Brian Schwab. I did a poster of the young man from Doge who was beaten bloody with a severe concussion, a broken nose. And then I did a poster of what happens to those kids, because I can't arrest them, I can't prosecute them. They go to family court and they get to do yoga and arts and crafts. Enough. It changes today. Thank you, Mr. President.
They finna start getting tough on these young criminals, bro. Matter of fact, if you young and you watching this, you better be taking notes, because they're gonna try to get it where if you committing crime and you young, a certain type of people, they gonna get you out of this country. That's what they've been saying this whole time. If you young and you committing crime, they're gonna try to get you up out of this country.
You're welcome.
Great job. Thank you. If I could, I just signed some executive orders. I'd like to have Will please come up, and we'll let the people know what we signed. Do you want to put them down?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
A short while ago in the Oval Office, President Trump signed 2 crucial executive actions to deal with the emergency crime conditions we currently face in the District of Columbia. The first of these was an executive order, as President Trump said before, invoking his powers under Section 40 of the Home Rule Act to take federal control of the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. Along with that executive order, President Trump signed the statutorily required notification letters to Mayor Bowser and to the relevant House and Senate committee leaders. The second major executive action that President Trump signed was a presidential memorandum directing the Secretary of Defense to utilize the National Guard to address the conditions we see on our streets here in D.C. It also authorized the Secretary of Defense to work with state governors to utilize their National Guard units if necessary as well. These are bold, decisive steps intended to combat the out-of-control crime conditions we've seen on D.C.'s streets for far too long. And I, for one, am deeply proud to be part of an administration that's finally coming to terms with these issues, sir.
Thank you very much.
Sir.
Thank you. So, just to conclude, Washington, D.C. should be one of the safest, cleanest, most beautiful places anywhere in the world. It was years ago. We had one problem that was a pretty big problem. The radical left got out of control and they started trying to rip down statues. And I said, let's go pass a law real fast. We're going to do it real fast, but we were blocked by the Democrats who do not want safety. Nobody gets it. I don't get it. They don't get it because they can't get votes. I don't know how they can win an election with this, but they don't want safety. And I found an old statute, very old, early 1900s, that said if you so much as touch or even think about destroying a statue or a monument in Washington, D.C., you go to jail for 10 years with no probation, no anything. In other words, slightly different than we have today. Today we have cashless bail. There you get jailed 10 years. No curtailed sentence, 10 years. And we took it out. Nobody used it. It was never used because, you know, it's harsh. And you remember they started to rip down the statue of Abraham Lincoln. I said, that's a tough one to rip down. He was pretty good, Pam. I think he was pretty good. When the ropes started going around Abraham Lincoln to pull him down, Andrew Jackson, others, and they were heading to the Jefferson Memorial, Thomas Jefferson. They're going to do a big number there. I said, it's time. And I signed that statute immediately. We had it updated. We made it use the same language, all passed by Congress. And I announced it's 10 years in jail, no probation, no anything, 10 years, no curtail sentence if you touch, so much as touch a statue in Washington, D.C. And it was an amazing sight, beautiful sight. Everybody just left. The ropes were hanging around Andrew Jackson, and there were 2 ropes around Abraham Lincoln. They left the rope, but everybody just left. I know it was the last problem we ever had. You know, that was the last problem that we ever had with the statues. They were going wild, and somebody came to me and said, sir, in 1910, I don't want to give you an exact because you'll say, Donald Trump gave us wrong dates around like early on. You know, if I'm slightly off, they make you sound a little bad. So I won't put myself in that position. I won't put you in that position because I think everybody agrees with what we're doing today. But when I signed that thing, it was like a miracle. Everybody left. They were gone. They were starting to march down. They started the march toward Thomas Jefferson. And I figured he was always going to be safe. But they found something with him, and they found something with Abraham Lincoln. And even in the name George Washington in California, numerous places changed the name of George Washington High School and various other places. They took George Washington's name. This was a sick, woke culture that I think we've largely ended. And a lot of those people that were woke are now turning out to be the opposite. I won't go so far as to say MAGA. It's a very special category. But they've gotten out of that. But we have people that love this country, and they love this really beautiful capital. It is. I flew over it the other day, and I said, what a beautiful place. But if there's crime all over the streets, when you get there, it doesn't look so beautiful. But we're going to make it beautiful again. We're going to fix it with crime, and we're going to also, as we're doing that, we're going to start doing things that we know how to do, that I know how to do better than anybody, I guess, because of my experience from previous life. But not only are we stopping the crime, we're going to clean up the trash and the graffiti and the grime and the dirt and the broken marble panels and all of the things they've done to hurt this city. And we're going to restore the city back to the gleaming capital that everybody wants it to be. It's going to be something very special. All of these people are really tough. Could I shake your hand, Gaddy, please? You're going to be so important here. You're going to be that guy. I hope I don't have to fire him in 2 weeks because he's too soft. I don't think he's too soft. If I do, I will, though. Is it okay if you're soft, weak, and pathetic like so many people? I will fire you so fast. You're not going to have to worry about that. No, I think you're going to do a fantastic job. And everybody in this room, they may not express it, but they all want that to happen. You know, they want to be safe, and they have families too. So it's an honor to have such a large group. I've done this for years now, hard to believe. I've never seen this room so packed. In fact, I'm sure it's a violation of every fire code. But we'll let you stay anyway. You're taking a chance. And with that, we'll say, maybe if you could, oh, wow. We could be here all day long. If we could keep the first questions, perhaps, to this subject, and then we'll go on to a few others. Please.
Mr. President, thank you so much. Can you talk about how personal of an issue this is? You talked about flying over the Washington Monument.
All right, here go the questions, guys.
What D.C. is, and do you believe
here go the questions.
The cleanliness, the way that crime is low, is a direct reflection on how the country is run?
Yeah, I do. I think the Capitol, look, everyone comes here. They're all coming. All the leaders, they're all wanting to come. And I say it, I've said it again, but I'm really just quoting other leaders from NATO, from the Middle East, King of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE. I was over there. We brought back $5.1 trillion of investment into our country. But a month and a half ago, I was at NATO. We had a great thing. They agreed to put up 5% instead of 2%. 2% they didn't pay, 5% is already paid. We had a great meeting, and they all said the same thing. They said our country was dead. They thought our country was gone. 1 year ago, they said your country was dead. And now you have the hottest country anywhere in the world. We do. We have the hottest country in the world right now. The tariffs have helped. It's given us not only the money, it's billions, trillions of dollars of money, but it gives us great power over enemies. We solved 5 wars with Pakistan and India. We just solved one. Azerbaijan and, as you know, and Armenia. War was raging for 37 years. And the 2 leaders got up and they said, we never thought this would be solved. Russia tried to solve it. They all tried to solve it. It was a very tough situation, but we got it done and got it done. And I said to the 2 men, I said, are you guys friends? And they had a hard time. You know, they've been killing each other for 37 years, right? The one was there 5 years, one was there for 22 years. He said, my whole life I've been fighting this war, and you got it solved. But we did many of those. We did in the Congo and Rwanda. That's been going on for 30 years. 8 to 9 million people killed that they know of, but it was raging, and we got that solved. We got a lot of them done. It's a great honor. But you want to have, when they come, the leaders come to our country to sign documents that the war is over or whatever, or for other reasons. They come for trade. And you want them to come through so beautifully. You ride down those roads, everything should be perfect. You shouldn't have medians falling down into the roadway. Median, you know, the metal things that are always, somebody had a great lobbyist, because I've never seen them look good. I've been looking at those things with the little, right? They're always broken and bad, but here they're really bad. And we're going to either put new or fix it, and it's not expensive. It's not really expensive. And we're going to fix our roads a little bit. We're going to clean up our sidewalks. You have countries where every Saturday the people go out and they wash their sidewalks in front of their stores or their houses. They scrub their sidewalks. So we aren't quite at that level yet, I don't think, Gaddy. We're not quite there yet, but maybe we will. They go out and they scrub. I think it's so beautiful to hear that and to see those stories. But we're going to make it clean. But just to finish with your question, it's a very, very strong reflection of our country. And when they see a bad city, you know, my father always used to tell me, I had a wonderful father, very smart, and he used to say, son, when you walk into a restaurant and you see a dirty front door, don't go in. Because
Road warrior, what do you mean? is DC free? Well, apparently, Road Warrior, that's the word that some people are saying, that DC is being held hostage.
Because if the front door is dirty, the kitchen's dirty also. Same thing with the Capitol. If our Capitol's dirty, our whole country is dirty, and they don't respect us. So it's a very good question, actually.
Mr. President, sorry. Question for you on the specific issue. Do you expect more cities to follow DC's path if this goes through? So the idea is that Chicago, LA, San Francisco, would they expect similar action to what we've seen in DC? And the other question, sir, there is reporting that the administration is going to reclassify marijuana. Would that send mixed messages that if marijuana is okay, some drugs are okay, but we're trying to clean up crime? How do they go hand in hand?
We're only looking at that. That's early, but somebody reported it, which is fine. We're looking at it. Some people like it. Some people hate it. Some people hate the whole concept of marijuana because if it does bad for the children, it does bad for people that are older than children. But we're looking at reclassification, and we'll make a determination over the next few weeks. And that determination hopefully will be the right one. It's a very complicated subject, the subject of marijuana. I've heard great things having to do with medical, and I've had bad things having to do with just about everything else. But medical and, for pain and various things, I've heard some pretty good things, but for other things, I've heard some pretty bad things. The other part of your question, I mean, we're just going to see what happens with it all. We're going to have a tremendous success in what we're doing. Other cities are hopefully watching this. They're all watching, just like everyone's watching here. They're all watching, and maybe they'll clean up, and maybe they'll do this and get rid of the cashless bail thing and all of the things that caused the problem. I mean, if you go back, this whole thing with cashless bail is a disaster. So many problems came that we never had before. So they're watching us today, and if they don't learn their lesson, if they haven't studied us properly, because we're going to be very successful. I have zero doubt about that. It's going to be. It's a question of will it be really fast, like the border. Everyone said, they used to say, Biden used to say, I need legislation. I didn't get any legislation. I called up our people, and we did a great job. Tom Homan was great. As you know, our secretary did a great job. They did a great job. There's no games. They didn't play games. And we're going to have the same thing here.
Hey, they want to get rid of cashless bail.
In a little while. Let's do this. Let's do this together.
They want to get rid of cashless bail.
And if we need to, we're going to do the same thing in Chicago, which is a disaster. We have a mayor there who's totally incompetent. He's an incompetent man. And we have an incompetent governor there. Pritzker's an incompetent. His family threw him out of the business, and he ran for governor. And now I understand he wants to be president. But I noticed he lost a little weight, so maybe he has a chance. You never know what happens. But Pritzker's a gross incompetent guy, thrown out of the family business. But when I look at Chicago and I look at L.A., if we didn't go to L.A.
Hello,
3
Advocate,
months
how you
ago,
doing?
L.A. would
Thank
be
you for
burning
joining
like
me.
the part that didn't burn. If he would have allowed the water to come down, which I told him about in my first term, I said, you're going to have problems. Let it come down. We actually sent in our military to have the water come down into L.A. They still didn't want it to come down after the fires. But that was it. We have it coming down. But hopefully L.A. is watching. That mayor also. The city's burning. They lost like 25,000 homes. I went there the day after the fire. You were there. And I saw people standing in front of a burned down home. Their homes were incinerated. They weren't like, even the steel was literally, it was all warped and literally disintegrated because of the winds and the flame and the whole thing. It was like a blowtorch. They were standing on this beautiful day, maybe a couple of days after. We gave it a little time because what they had suffered. Almost 25,000 homes. And you see what's happening now. They didn't give their permits. I went to a town hall meeting. I said, we're going to get you the federal permits, which are much harder. Almost immediately. Lee Zeldin is a star. He did an incredible job. They have all their federal permits. They don't have their city permits. And the mayor said to me, we think we could have them in 2 years. I was walking down the street, and I met firemen and police. And I was saying hello to many people that were standing in front of their homes. with yellow tape. You can't go in. You can't go onto the lot. And those people wanted to start rebuilding the homes then and there. And the mayor said, we should be able to get them the permits within 2 years. I said, that's a shame, 2 years. Are you kidding? I'm going to get them the federal permit like almost immediately, 2 years. And she drew it back, well, maybe 1 year. The place was booing her out of the place. They don't have their permits to build their homes. And now they're talking about putting, this is among the most beautiful areas was in the country. Now they're talking about putting low-income housing there. Can you believe this? I love low-income housing. I made money with low-income housing. I built low-income housing. I know more about low-income housing and luxury housing. I know about everything real estate. They want to replace some of those homes with low-income housing. They haven't gotten their permits yet. We've gotten all the federal permits, which are much tougher to get, and it was done almost immediately through Lee Zeldin and Federal Environmental. And I watched the other day, those people are angry. And now, you know, they had tremendous, they loved that area. They loved the whole big area, different places, but they loved it. It was all luxury stuff and beautiful stuff, and some wasn't that luxury, but the level of love for that neighborhood, their neighborhoods, was incredible. And you know what? I watch people on television, they want to go, they want to leave. They've lost their spirit, they've lost their heart, because the mayor's incompetent, and Gavin Newsom is incompetent. He's got a good line of bullshit, but that's about it. He's incompetent. And you have Los Angeles is, you know, it's amazing. You know, I called, the first thing I did, I got the Olympics to go there. I was the one that got it. And by a rare thing that happened, I'll be the president. I was very upset because I got the Olympics there, and I said I won't be president when it comes, but bad things happened, and illegal things happened, really illegal things happened. Now it turns out one good thing was I'm going to be the president for the Olympics for 2050, for 250, which is going to be fantastic, and also for the World Cup. So we have a lot of good things, and I hope 250 is going to be, the 250th anniversary is going to be the best. But when I looked at those people, and I saw last night on television that they still don't have their permits, it's a disgrace what's happened in Los Angeles.
Thank you. The China tariff deadline is tonight. Do you plan to extend that?
We'll see what happens. China's been, we've been dealing very nicely with China, as you probably have heard. They have tremendous tariffs that they're paying to the United States of America. And we'll see what happens. They've been dealing quite nicely. The relationship is very good with President Xi and myself.
President, you mentioned your upcoming meeting with President Putin. Can you tell us what you hope to get out of that and whether you consider inviting President Zelensky to join?
So you have to understand, this is a war that should have never happened. This is a war that wouldn't have happened if I were president. It would have never happened. It was the apple of his eye. I got along very well with President Putin. But if you look, under President Bush, they took a lot of territory. Under President Obama, they took a lot of territory. Under Biden, they essentially took the whole thing. You know, it's just a question of time. Under Trump, you know what they took? Nothing, nothing. I was the one that said, you can't build your pipeline. That was half built. I came in, I stopped the pipeline. It's called Nord Stream 2. Nobody knows that, you know? Nobody ever heard of Nord Stream 2. You might have not even heard it. Biggest pipeline in the world. I stopped it. I was not a friend of Russia, but I got along well with Putin. It's always good to get along with other countries if possible, but that doesn't mean you roll over like Biden did. Biden came in and he immediately approved the pipeline. I couldn't believe it. Then they say Trump wasn't tough on Russia. I wasn't tough. I was the toughest. Putin said, if you're not tough, I would hate like hell to see you. I stopped the biggest economic development job, the biggest job that Russia had ever built. I stopped it. It was dead. And this low IQ president came in and he let them build the pipeline and supply oil and gas all over Europe, you know? So this is really a feel-out meeting a little bit. And President Putin invited me to get involved. He wants to get involved. I believe he wants to get it over with. Now, I've said that a few times, and I've been disappointed because I'd have like a great call with him, and then missiles would be lobbed into Kiev or some other place, and you'd have 60 people laying on a road dying. I said, that's cold, that's cold. But it's a violent war. 5,000 to 7,000 people a week are dying. And you know, there's nobody from here. They're all Russian and Ukrainian people, and some people from the cities, much smaller number, but still, those missiles do damage and they kill a lot of people, but mostly soldiers. And they're young soldiers, although in the case of Ukraine, they're getting much older. They're drafting 60-year-olds now. It's a terrible thing to witness, and I think I have an obligation. Look, this is Joe Biden's war. This is not my war. I made a deal with NATO a month ago. You covered it very accurately, actually. We don't pay anything anymore. You know, we're not paying anything. They are buying things from us, and NATO is paying us. I got it raised from 2% of GDP to 5%. And they're paying us for everything that we send. We're not paying. But Biden approved $350 billion. Europe has spent $100 billion. The money that's been spent and the death is incredible. It's the worst thing that's happened, by far the worst that's happened since World War II. So I'm going in to speak to Vladimir Putin. And I'm going to be telling him, you got to end this war. You got to end it. And he wasn't going to mess with me. This war would have never happened. You know, we had a discussion about it one time, and we never had that discussion again. Would have never happened. And when the election was rigged, and then Biden took office, which was barely took office, the auto pen took office, bad things started happening. Bad things, stupid things were said. And it ended up in a war. And you know, and I don't believe this will happen anymore because I have that pretty well covered. This could end up in a third world war. This could have been a third world war. I don't think that's going to happen now. But I thought it was very respectful that the president of Russia is coming to our country as opposed to us going to his country or even a third party place. But I think we'll have constructive conversations. Then after that meeting, immediately, maybe as I'm flying out, maybe as I'm leaving the room, I'll be calling the European leaders who I get along with very well. And, you know, I have a great relationship, I think, with all of them. And I get along with Zelensky, but, you know, I disagree with what he's done. Very, very severely disagree. This is a war that should have never happened, wouldn't have happened. But I'll be speaking to Zelensky. The next meeting will be with Zelensky and Putin, or Zelensky and Putin and me. I'll be there if they need, but I want to have a meeting set up between the two leaders. I was a little bothered by the fact that Zelensky was saying, well, I have to get constitutional approval. I mean, he's got approval to go into war and kill everybody, but he needs approval to do a land swap because there'll be some land swapping going on. I know that through Russia and through conversations with everybody to the good, for the good of Ukraine. Good stuff, not bad stuff. Also, some bad stuff for both. So there's good and there's bad. But it's very complex because you have lines that are very uneven. And there'll be some swapping, there'll be some changes in land. And the word that they will use is, you know, they make changes. We're going to change the lines, the battle lines. Russia's occupied a big portion of Ukraine. They've occupied some very prime territory. We're going to try and get some of that territory back for Ukraine. But they've taken some very prime territory. They've taken largely ocean, you know, in real estate we call it oceanfront property. That's always the most valuable property. If you're in a lake, a river, or an ocean, it's always the best property. Well, Ukraine, a lot of people don't know that Ukraine was largely 1,000 miles of ocean. That's gone. Other than one small area, Odessa, it's a small area. There's just a little bit of water.
Damn.
So I'm going to go and see the parameters. Now, I may leave and say, good luck, and that'll be the end. I may say this is not going to be settled. I mean, there are those that believe that Putin wanted all of Ukraine. I happen to be one of them, by the way. I think if it weren't for me, he would not be even talking to anybody else right now. But I'm going to meet with him. We're going to see what the parameters are. I'm then going to call up President Zelensky and the European leaders right after the meeting, yeah. And I'm going to tell them what kind of a deal. I'm not going to make a deal. It's not up to me to make a deal. I think a deal should be made for both. I think Russia has to get back into building their country. It's a massive country. I think they have 11 time zones, if you can believe it. It's a massive, it's by far, from the standpoint of land, it's by far the largest. They have tremendous potential in Russia to do well. They're not doing well. Their economy is not doing well right now because It's been very well disturbed by this. It doesn't help when the President of the United States tells their largest or second largest oil buyer that we're putting a 50% tariff on you if you buy oil from Russia. That was a big blow. And then they say, gee, he wasn't so tough. Nobody else would have done that. And I haven't stopped there. I mean, look, I was all set to do things far bigger than that, but I got a call that they'd like to meet, and I'm going to see what they want to meet about. I'd like to see a ceasefire. I'd like to see the best deal that could be made for both parties. You know, it takes two to tango, right? So ultimately, I'll have a meeting next week. I had a great relationship with him, considering the fact that, I was not nice to him because of the pipeline. I ended the pipeline. I also gave the javelins. Do you ever hear of a javelin? Javelin is called a tank buster. They say that Obama gave them sheets and I gave them javelins. They've worn for me all those tanks that were destroyed at the first days of the war because the tanks got stuck in the mud. Some commander made a better. They would have been in Kiev in 4 hours going down the highway. But a Russian general made a brilliant decision to go through the farmland instead. And they just had torrential rains, and the rains were so bad, and it was mud, and those tanks got stuck in the mud. I don't know who that general is, but knowing Vladimir, he's probably not around any longer because all those tanks were stuck in the mud, and they went along with the javelins. I gave them the javelins. You know that, right? I gave them javelins. They gave them sheets. But I'm going to meet with President Putin, and we're going to see what he has in mind. And if it's a fair deal, I'll reveal it to the European Union leaders and to the NATO leaders, and also to President Zelensky. I think out of respect, I'll call him first, and then I'll call them after. And I may say, lots of luck, keep fighting, or I may say we can make a deal. I will tell you this, I've seen a poll coming out of Ukraine. 88% of the people would like to see a deal made. And if you go back 3 years, everybody was gung-ho for war. Everybody's gung-ho for war until you have it. It's an amazing thing. I had it with a couple of countries where I couldn't get a deal done with one particular country. And I just couldn't. The guy's great. He's a friend of mine. Great. Good leader. Tough as hell. I couldn't get the deal done. And then he went into war for a short period of time. You know where I'm talking about. First term. And it was nasty. Guys being killed all over the place. And he went through 1 week of war, and I was able to get the deal done. He said, this is nasty. Yes, please.
Yeah, just to follow up on what you were saying there. First of all, Volodymyr Zelensky is not invited on Friday?
He wasn't a part of it. I would say he could go, but he's gone to a lot of meetings. He's been there for 3.5 years. Nothing happened.
And what is the definition?
I mean, do you want somebody that's been doing this for 3.5 years? What's the definition of a good deal? I'll tell you after I hear what the deal is. Because there could be many definitions. You're talking about a very large and complex situation. Now, I tell you, the war that I just settled with Azerbaijan and with, as you know, and Armenia was almost as complex as this one, having to do with routes, trade.
Meeting on Friday with Vladimir Putin?
Well, we're going to have a meeting with Vladimir Putin, and at the end of that meeting, probably in the first 2 minutes, I'll know exactly whether or not a deal can be made.
How will you know that?
Because that's what I do. I make deals. Please, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to ask you two questions, one about China, one about Russia, if I could. On China, your administration agreed to
the
send
art of the deal.
the most advanced or advanced NVIDIA and AMD chips.
No, obsolete. No.
Obsolete chip. Well, and then 15% of the profits.
You mean the
come
20s?
Back.
No. This is an old chip that China already has. And I deal with Jensen, who's a great guy, and NVIDIA. The chip that we're talking about, the H20, it's an old chip. China already has it in a different form, different name, but they have it. Or they have a combination of two will make up for it and even then some. Now Jensen's a very brilliant guy, and Jensen also has a new chip, the Blackwell. Do you know what the Blackwell is? The Blackwell is super duper advanced. I wouldn't make a deal with that, although it's possible I'd make a deal, a somewhat enhanced in a negative way Blackwell. In other words, take 30% to 50% off of it. But that's the latest and the greatest in the world. Nobody has it. They won't have it for 5 years. But the H20 is obsolete. You know, it's one of those things, but it still has a market. So I said, listen, I want 20% if I'm going to approve this for you, for the country, for our country, for the U.S. I don't want it myself. You know, every time I say like 747, I want, yeah, for the Air Force. So I just wanted, so when I say I want 20, I want for the country. I only care about the country. I don't care about myself. And he said, would you make it 15? So we negotiate a little deal. So he's selling a essentially old chip that Huawei has a similar chip, a chip that does the same thing. And I said, good, if I'm going to give it to you, because they have a, they have a stopper, what we call a stopper, not allowed to do it. It's really known as a restrictive covenant. And I said, if I'm going to do that, I want you to pay us as a country something, because I'm giving you a release. I released them only from the H20. Now, on the Blackwell, I think he's coming to see me again about that. But that will be a unenhanced version of the big one. Like, I don't know if you know it, we will sometimes sell fighter jets to a country, and we'll give them 20% less than we have. You know what I mean, right? That's the same.
So on Russia, do you see a time, Mr. President, when there could be normal trade between the U.S. and Russia? Should your meeting go well, should there be peace?
I do, yeah. Russia has a very valuable piece of land. If Vladimir Putin would go toward business instead of toward war, you know, it's a warring nation. That's what they do. They fight a lot of wars. A friend of mine said Russia's tough because they just keep on fighting. They beat Hitler, so did we. And they beat Napoleon. You know, they've been doing this for a long time. I asked a question to a very, very smart man that some people like and some people don't like. Viktor Orban, right? From Hungary, the head of Hungary. And he's in that same area and knows the two countries very well. I said, this was before Biden didn't do anything to get us out of it. He could have gotten us out of that. It would have never happened. I said, so can Russia be beaten by Ukraine? He looked at me like, what a stupid question. He said, Russia's a massive country, and they win their country, and they win their life through wars. They fight wars. That's what they do. He said, China beats you with trade. Russia beats you with war. It was a very interesting statement. China's not beating us with trade, not when I'm in charge. But they were beating Biden with trade, but they never beat us with trade. Don't forget, China had to pay $400 billion worth of tariffs when I was last time. That was last time. And if we didn't have COVID, all of this stuff we would be loaded. We're finding hundreds of billions of dollars of cash is pouring into our country now because of tariffs. And all we're doing is we're doing what they do to us. It's so beautiful to see it. They found last month, as you saw, $25 billion of excess cash flow. They're saying, where did it come from? I said, I'll tell you where it came from. It came from a place called tariffs, and we're doing very well. We're really doing well. But I expect to have a meeting with Putin that I think it'll be good, but it might be bad. And I'm here for one reason, to get rid of a war that somebody else started. Should have never happened. And if I could end it, great. Complex war, a lot of bad blood, But Zelensky's been there for 3.5 years. So if you put him in a room, now I will say this, ultimately I'm going to put the two of them in a room. I'll be there or I won't be there. And I think it'll get solved. Yeah, please be happy.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Excuse me, I'm going to suggest, because do you have any other questions on DC? Because I don't want them to be. Wait. These are incredible people. I don't want them to be standing up here on subjects. Does anybody have a question of them? And then you guys can leave. Okay, a question, Brian, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. All right.
And by the way, this is only on DC, and then they're going to leave because it's unfair to have them stand up here all day long.
I
Brian.
agree. I've got two questions for you. First, about DC. This is personal for me as well. Last year, I was robbed on the streets by one of these teenage thugs. Had a gun, got away with it. Let's talk about the effort that between law enforcement, prosecutors, and judges, because it's a recycling belt. Like, these kids go, they don't fear the police. They know it. If you talk about how we've got to get these judges and put these kids behind bars,
Right.
Adult crimes deserve adult penalties. And my second question, I'll after you answer that.
Wow.
You want me to answer?
Oh, whoever wants to take it.
Okay, it's real. Do you want me to answer it? Here's the problem. Assuming that they're 17 years, older than 17 years old, I can get the case. If they're under 18 years of age, I can only get the case if it's murder, rob one, rape, or even if they shoot a gun but don't kill you, I can't get it. So the law has to be changed. As the president said, cashless bail. That has to be changed. All right, then even assuming I get the case, I get jurisdiction, I get a conviction, the DC Council has given the judges the ability to give probation on shootings. And so then it's up to them. All of these things, the Youth Rehabilitation Incarceration Reduction Act, and now they want to seal records. So if we work hard, we get a conviction, they want to wipe it out. So that needs all to be changed.
Okay, Mr. Question.
Pam, would you answer that also?
Yeah, and just back to that topic, let's be clear though, we're going to charge them and we're going to track every single thing they do throughout every step of the court process and report back to you and let all of you know what's happening to them, because the people who are prosecuting them, the judges who are trying them, they also need to be held accountable.
Mr. President, you also made a comment. This is the most people we've ever seen in this briefing.
I've never seen
ever, right?
Yeah. I've never seen any. Where's Caroline? Where's my superstar? Caroline. Is Caroline in the back? Where's Caroline? Come here, Caroline. Come here, Caroline. Come here. Is she doing a good job?
Oh, them youngsters ain't playing out there in DC. According to them, those young kids out there are robbing people coming and leaving the White House. They're robbing people leaving the Capitol. They're robbing people leaving Congress. Them young kids out there don't care about the cops or nothing. That's what they're saying.
Good job, by the way. Come here. Is this the largest crowd that you've ever seen?
This is definitely the most packed briefing, and I think all of you would agree. I think it's why we need to build a ballroom.
Mr. President, I have a better idea.
All right, Brian, go ahead.
My question is this. You're building the big, beautiful ballroom.
Yeah.
Could we build a big, beautiful briefing room, updated technology,
No.
more seats?
I don't want to do that. I don't want you to be comfortable. So no, I don't want to make life comfortable. So look. Let's just do this. Let's do this. It's going to be a big thing. We're going to Russia. That's going to be a big deal. What happens, happens. I'll let you know what happens. You'll be the first to know. I'll be calling the European leaders. I'm going with totally. I mean, we have a lot of talks. They're great people. They're great leaders actually, and they want to get back. Honestly, as one of them said, I've OD'd on trying to settle Ukraine. They've OD'd, meaning they've overdosed on the settlement of Ukraine. Not a nice expression, but boy, is it accurate. They're tired of it. They want to get back to spending money on their countries. You know, Biden gave them $350 billion. Europe gave $100 billion. It should be much more than that. Shouldn't have been that kind of, they should have had equalization, but they didn't. But you know what? Still a lot of money. They want to get back to building their own countries. They really want it resolved. My relationship with the European leaders, as you saw, is extremely good. It's perfect. It's beautiful. Wait. And we're going to try. I'll be in touch with them. I have 5 of them call me. You think it's easy? There are a lot of European leaders. but they rely on me, very much rely on me. If it wasn't for me, this thing would never get solved until the last person breathing is dead.
Would you talk to them before?
Mr. President.
Yeah, I did. I'm talking to him right now. So I'm talking to the European leaders. I'll be talking to President Zelensky. I'm going to get everybody's ideas. I go into that thing fully loaded right up there, and we're going to see what happens. Now, I think one of two things is going to happen. It's going to be a good meeting, and we'll go a step further. We'll get it done. I'd like to see a ceasefire very, very quickly. Very quick. I'd like to see it immediately, but I'd like to see it very quickly. And we're going to be dealing with the European leaders, and we're going to be dealing with President Zelensky, and hopefully we're going to have a great success. As far as this, what we did today, and I think you were here for D.C. more so than even Russia, because Russia will be, you know, we have a couple of days to go, but the Russia is going to be very interesting. But to me, what is very exciting, and we're going to take back our capital. We're going to make it beautiful again, but we're going to make it, more importantly, safe again. It's going to be so safe. It's going to be a model. And then we'll look at other cities also. But other cities are studying what we're doing. And you have some capable people in other cities. They can do it too. But we have a great group of professionals. We're going to have a safe, beautiful capital, and it's going to happen very quickly. Thank you all. Thank you all very much.
How long will the takeover of DC police last? We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Well, that's it. They got crime out there in D.C. according to them. Big crime. Youngsters out there robbing the lawmakers and the reporters. It's crazy word. And they're going to try to send those youngsters to Alcatraz. Yeah. As soon as they pass those juvenile laws. They're robbing them right outside of that White House. Now I'm finna go over here, guys. A reporter that on the Al Jazeera network
مستمرة لآخر
got
نفس
killed.
ولآخر لحظة.
He was doing good reporting over there too. And if you've been on this channel for a while, you've seen him before on this channel reporting live from Gaza and places like that.
Also destroyed. For this, there was also.
Israel is now a leading cause of journalist deaths in the line of duty since the Committee to Protect Journalists began tracking in the 1990s. Long before the current Gaza war, reporting in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict was among the deadliest in the world, with hundreds of targeted attacks on media every year. The killing of Al Jazeera journalists on Sunday night is a reminder. More journalists have died covering Gaza than in nearly every past major.
Well, I appreciate y'all for joining me, everybody that's inside of the chat. Appreciate y'all for joining me. Okay, the DC is DC free. 72% say no, 28% says yes. So 322 votes. I appreciate y'all for voting. I'm going to go on and end the poll right now. Appreciate y'all, chat, for participating in the poll. What's up, Jonathan Davis? How you doing?
Major conflict, Vietnam and World War II included.
More than 230 journalists, men and women, have been killed since the beginning of the war on Gaza in the largest massacre committed against the international press. The international community needs to protect Palestinian journalists.
They don't just report the story, they live it, risking everything to tell the truth in one of the most dangerous reporting environments on Earth.
It is genocide that's taking place in front of the world, in front of the cameras, and actually all the international media should join in condemning our journalists and their families, by the way, targeted. Several of them have been killed, and a lot of members of their families have been killed as well.
Watchdog groups accuse Israeli and Western media outlets of complicity, often burying the brutal realities of Israel's genocide. Palestinian journalists stand as a vital counterweight to Israeli censorship and propaganda.
Al Jazeera has had a long experience with...
If you've been on this channel before, you should remember this guy. You should remember this guy, man. Rest in peace to him. He was, on the front line, letting us know what's really going on over there. And the report is, allegedly, that they took him out because he's showing us the real. And so, rest in peace to him.
Its journalists being killed because of the way Al Jazeera functions as the voice of the voiceless. The journalists at Al Jazeera and our sister networks everywhere, that we need to continue to do our job, because the best response to the killing of our colleagues is by continuing to do what we do, because this is the slap to Netanyahu and his government and to his genocide in Gaza, for us to continue to report.
Journalism is rooted in the power of knowledge to drive change. But in Gaza, it seems only brute force prevails. No amount of objective reporting has stopped the slaughter. World leaders continue to look away as Israel's war machine massacres civilians every day, placing Israeli malice over Palestinian lives. In Gaza, Israel has made truth a prime target, and those who tell it pay the highest price. Zain Basravi, Al Jazeera.
Well, Al Jazeera has been recognized for the breadth of its international coverage. The murder of 4 of our journalists has sent shockwaves around the world. To gauge some of that reaction, we have correspondents standing by for us. Jonah Hull is in London, Hashim Al-Barra is in Brussels, Gabriel Elizondo at the United Nations. But first, let's go straight to Patty Culhane. She joins us from Washington, D.C. And Patty, when it comes at least to officials there, it sounds like there's a bit of a deafening silence on what is being admitted by Israel as its deliberate killings of journalists.
Very much. We have heard literally nothing from any officials within the Trump administration. That said, U.S. President Donald Trump, with many of his cabinet members, are giving a press conference at this moment about his...
What's up, Joyce? How you doing? And she's absolutely right. We didn't hear Trump not one time, none of them even question him about the offing of this journalist. We did not hear not one person speak on that. And that whole time we was listening to Trump, I was hoping he would finish so we could start watching this.
His plan to send National Guard troops into D.C. He tends to take questions at these things, and our White House correspondent, Kimberly Halkett, is in the room. She's going to try and press him on this, so we'll be keeping an ear out for that. But this is not a president who likes to talk about press freedom or really anything good about the media, unless it's conservative right-wing media. He disparages the media constantly, so I doubt he's going to become the big defender of our colleagues. That said, he has been very clearly given free rein to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Unlikely that, well, we'll see if this moves that at all. That said, we have heard from the Committee to Protect Journalists in a very strong statement. They talked about the allegations against Anas al-Sharif that Israel's made, and says this is what Israel does without ever offering proof. And they pointed out that whenever he had a major story, that's soon after they would start basically trying to damage his reputation with unfounded claims, which he denied, and the network denies as well. But then they, and this is their quote, "Israel is murdering the messenger." I went on to say, if Israel can kill the most prominent Gazan journalist, then it can kill anyone. And again, the statement says the targeting of journalists is a war crime under international law, and it should be reported as such.
All right, thanks so much to Patty Culhane. Let's take this to Jonah Hull. He's standing by for us live in London. I understand there has been at least some comment there, at least to the extent of concern, right, Jonah?
Yeah, I think ordinarily by now we probably would have heard a little more, but for the fact that Parliament is on its summer recess, MPs and ministers are on holiday. But yes, as you say, we've heard from the Prime Minister's spokesperson giving a daily briefing earlier on, saying that Keir Starmer is gravely concerned by the repeated targeting of journalists in Gaza, a reference there to the 242 now UN-confirmed number of journalists who've lost their lives since October the 7th, 2023. The UK government calling for an independent investigation and for Israel to ensure the safety of journalists working in Gaza. We know, of course, that the situation in Gaza is very high on the government's priority list, not least because of pressure from within the Labour Party and hardening public opinion for the government to do more. We saw Keir Starmer a couple of weeks ago flexing what influence he may have over the US President Donald Trump on a visit to Scotland to try and get him to intervene in the humanitarian situation. Immediately after that, Starmer announced his plan to go ahead and recognise the state of Palestine unless, he said, Israel were to end this war and take steps to reinitiate a two-step solution process by September. I think the deliberate killing of journalists, Al Jazeera journalists, acknowledged by Israel as such, will be viewed here as a sign, another sign if one were needed, that Israel has no intention of acceding to Starmer's conditions, and therefore this symbolically important recognition of the state of Palestine by Britain in September ahead of the UN General Assembly alongside France becomes, I think, more or less an inevitability now.
Thanks to Jonah Hull. Let's take it to Hashim Ahlabarra. He's standing by live for us in Brussels. So I understand there's been some condemnation from at least some EU officials over the killing of these journalists, right?
Indeed, Sami, we have the EU Commissioner for Equality, Preparedness and Crisis Management, Haj Al-Habib, saying that she was horrified to hear about the killing of the Al Jazeera journalist, saying that the killing was a direct hit on the freedom of media. The German Foreign Office has also issued a statement saying that the Israelis have to provide clear and transparent explanation about the circumstances surrounding the killing of the Al Jazeera journalist, saying that killing media crews is inadmissible. This takes place while a gathering through video conference of EU Ministers of Foreign Affairs is underway as we speak, and it is going to talk about Gaza as well.
Did y'all hear that, guys? They're saying, the report from their side are saying that these journalists are being targeted because if they take them out, that particular network, that we won't get the real from the other side of the story, that we will not get the right information.
With growing push by the European countries on the need for the Israelis to abandon their plan to annex Gaza and expand the settlements, but also this saying that this is the moment for the Israelis to accept the fact that a Palestinian state is something that has to become a political reality in a time soon. However, I have to say, Sami, that as far as the Palestinian issue is concerned, Gaza in particular, we have diverging views within the EU, and as far as the decision-making process, it has to be unanimous, and therefore, unless we have those countries able to narrow those differences, it's going to be extremely difficult to say whether the EU is going to finally answer some of the calls by its own people to come up with more of a clear, strong stance when it comes to Gaza. France today has been saying that this could be the moment for what it describes as stabilization mission mandated by the United Nations Security Council to operate in Gaza to ensure a durable peace in the region. But the French are yet to further provide more details about what they mean by this mission, which they think should be operating within Gaza.
All right, thanks so much to Hashim Ahlabarra in Brussels. Let's go over to the United Nations, where Gabriel Elizondo is standing by live for us. So, Gabriel, first just take us through the reaction there and the calls for action that you're hearing.
Yeah, that's right. Wide condemnation. We've been hearing the Security Council is actually meeting right now about maritime security. But before the meeting got underway, we waited outside the Security Council chamber and talked to some ambassadors as they walked in. The Chinese ambassador to the UN says we condemn the killing of the journalists, and it shows that we need more journalists in Gaza, and we hope that can materialize. The Palestinian ambassador also condemned what he called as the assassination of the Al Jazeera journalist, calling it a war crime. And then the Pakistani ambassador saying it's very clear that Israel is trying to eliminate those few journalists that remain that are trying to report on the ground from what is happening to the international community. So clearly, why?
That's what I was just saying. All these countries all over the world are saying the same thing that I just said, that they are killing those journalists that are on the front line so they can't report to the world what's really going on out there. That's what they're doing.
Wide condemnation. We expect to hear more as well. The Secretary General's spokesperson is going to be having his daily briefing here in the next 45 minutes or so. We expect to hear some more reaction, but the spokesperson did send a statement out late Sunday saying it is essential that journalists be allowed to freely access all areas of Gaza and to independently report on the situation there. That from Stefan Dujarric, the spokesperson for UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
All right, Gabriel Elizondo from the United Nations headquarters. Well, earlier, my colleague Nick Clark spoke with Al Jazeera's Gaza bureau chief, Wael al-Dahdouh, who lost his wife, 2 children and a grandchild in Israeli attacks. His eldest son, Hamza, was a journalist and was also killed in a targeted Israeli strike on a car carrying a group of media workers in January last year. Wael described the challenges facing journalists working under constant threats to their lives.
What is happening is unjustifiable and not in line with any law, with any humanitarian law or any human values. Therefore, this is astonishing and we should condemn it. How can they target a tent where journalists were sheltering? Everybody knows who was in this tent. They are parts of the Al Jazeera family and they work from this tent. So I think that such a thing was targeted. It was done on purpose, and that's why we are surprised and astonished. Why would you target our colleague Anas al-Sharif and his colleague, Mohammed, and other colleagues and the team that was with him? And before this, there was also a series of murdering journalists who were targeted and killed in different ways in different places while they were doing their job. So the question is, why are they also targeting the family members of the journalists? I personally had my family members, including my wife, my children, my cousins from both sides, all killed in the same attack. And why? We don't know. Nobody has an answer. Therefore, we are asking, what does Israel want from these consecutive and continuing attacks? We do not understand it, and it cannot be justified.
You've lived and breathed that life as a reporter in Gaza. Give us a window of what it's like to brave the daily threats from the Israelis, of everything that's going on around you, of the daily killing that's happening, and then at the end of the day, still being under threat and not being able to leave this front line.
باختصار شديد الصحفي في قطاع غزة.
I can say briefly that a journalist in Gaza is working in a minefield. It's like someone who would put his soul in his hand and just walk away. He knows that he could be the news, the breaking news at any moment. Or it could be his friend, his colleagues, or even his family members. Sometimes from the same media family. Or sometimes it's a friend, a neighbour, or any displaced person in the tents. The Palestinian journalist carries out his job on the street. They live on the street. They do not have a home. They do not have an office. They do not have logistical support. They do not have security or safety. And when possible, they shelter in a tent. So they carry out their work from the street, literally. For example, if they lose their mobiles or an electrical cable and want to replace it, they do so in extreme fear. They are scared of being targeted at any moment by the drones that are jamming the skies of the Gaza Strip. Those drones get so close, near tents where they work, where the journalists are trying to work or to sometimes get some rest. The journalists also work while starving. They feel hungry. They cannot find water. They suffer from the same conditions as all the other people in Gaza. We were not able to recognise the bodies of many of our colleagues. We can't recognise them because they've lost half of their weight. And I have to mention here that it is 1,000 times more difficult now. These journalists spent time together with their neighbours and their colleagues, also trying to at least secure just a few grams of flour and a few litres of water. They also spend time trying to collect information and images so that they can broadcast them to the whole world. The international community does not know what is happening, the starvation, the killings, and that's why the journalists are targeted, because they thwart Israel's plan. Israel is bothered by the journalists, and that's why Israel doesn't allow foreign journalists in Gaza, despite all the pressure being exerted from different sides.
And such important and courageous work, isn't it? On this tragic day for journalism and indeed for our colleagues, how would you remember Anas and his team that have died so tragically?
هو حقيقة هذه من أصعب الأمور.
In fact, this is one of the most difficult things for a professional journalist as myself, remembering my colleagues. This is very difficult. This is very tough. As tough as remembering the loss of the loved ones, including the wife, the children, and our relatives who are part of our body and our hearts. So remembering that every one of our colleagues had a story, ambitions, a family, how they used to sleep, how they walk, how they used to cope with the situation. With this, how they used to stand in front of the camera, how they used to face all the problems and to work and be part of a team. They have also the spirit of perseverance, determination as well, despite all these circumstances. So you share a piece of bread with your colleagues. Maybe sometimes you share a place to sleep, some sheets to cover yourself, and you just wait for the worst to happen at any moment. Sometimes you take risks together just to get some footage or images that you can share with the rest of the world. This makes the journalist a real partner in the soul and in the body and in the mission of conveying the message. So when you are killed in this horrific way, you really feel that you are losing a part of your soul, a part of your body, a part of your past, and also a part from your future, from the story that you want to tell, from the ambitions that you have. Some of our colleagues across the world may have experienced some similar conditions to a certain extent, but I do not believe that they've lived the conditions in which we have. That's why I say to our colleagues across the globe, especially in Europe and in the United States, have a big role and a big mission towards their colleagues. We look at them as we are one body, as we are partners in humanity and the profession that we exercise, and also the humanitarian message that we are trying to convey. And we are risking our lives to convey this message for the whole humanity. And for all those reasons, we have paid a big price.
Indeed, Anas and the team gave their lives to tell the world the reality of life on the ground in Gaza. Very briefly, well, if you would, how do journalists in Gaza feel? And you are one of them. How do you feel about the fact that this story that you've been witnessing and telling the world about, and yet there is no real international action from world leaders?
هو من أصعب المشاعر والتجارب التي يمكن أن تعيشها كصحفي.
It is one of the most difficult and toughest feelings that you can experience as a person, as a human being in Gaza, which is like a big prison. You face all these challenges on a daily basis while exercising your profession. And sometimes you have this feeling that you are someone who is just a drop in the ocean. It's the same feeling, or pouring water in the desert. Maybe they empathize with us, sometimes a little. However, nobody is really doing anything in a serious manner in order to put an end to this tragedy and to this genocide. In fact, this is one of the toughest and most challenging experiences that you can have as a journalist, as you expect your brothers in the same profession or from the world to do something. That's why I have to say that sometimes in an honest way. We think, frankly, that this silence is even more heartbreaking than the fact that we were bombed.
Israeli forces have killed at least 200.
Wow. Let me see. Let me get back.
directed the military to bring
I think I'm in it right here, guys. I just had to watch that little piece.
There's a problem of assuring security, but I think it can be done
We showed him
in a way that is responsible
on
and
this channel
careful to
before,
preserve your own
giving us
safety.
information about
So
what's going on over there.
Directive has been
Just
since
now joining,
2 days ago.
he was killed, and they're
From
saying
what you're
that
telling me, it hasn't
Israel
yet been
are
implemented.
targeting
Should be,
journalists.
because I think you should see it.
So that's all I got for right now, guys. Appreciate y'all for
reports
joining
from
me.
Amman.
Hit the
She's in the
like button,
Jordanian
subscribe to
capital
the
because the
channel.
Israeli government has banned Al Jazeera
Everybody that's
from
been
reporting in
commenting in the
Israel
comment
and the
section,
occupied
I
West Bank.
appreciate y'all, man.
There's a
Appreciate
culture
y'all
of
for coming
impunity
through
when it comes to
and rocking
Israel.
with me.
That is something Palestinians
So
have
with
been
that being
complaining
said,
about
to
well
the next
before
one,
October
I'm
7th.
out.
I
Don't
would go as
forget
far as saying that
to
they've
hit
been
the like
complaining
button
about for
and subscribe
decades
to the channel
because
as you are leaving. Appreciate y'all for coming over here. Y'all could be anywhere else, but y'all rocking with me. And I appreciate that. To the next one, I'm out.